Hi readers, I just pinched my hand on my glasses. It's a talent. Anywho, welcome back to my channel, Lila Wanders and Reads. Lee here, and welcome to my weekend books, which has changed because I'm not reading the way I used to because I'm preparing for school to start in January. Happy New Year. When this posts, it will be January the 5th. So we'll have already celebrated the New Year. I'm recording this on Christmas Eve. And a rare makeup-free post because it is Christmas Eve. I'm at home. And I didn't want to put on any makeup. Anywho, this is another My Week in a Book haul. And this book haul is my Christmas gift from my sister. We exchange Amazon gift cards every year, and I always spend them on books. This year, I spent them primarily on school books, but the books I'm really interested in, there are two exceptions to that. One of which is a book of poems by Siegfried Sassoon. It is called The War Poems of Siegfried Sassoon. Siegfried was a decorated World War I veteran, and he wrote poems about the horrors of war. And this one actually has a blurb on the back. He was a paradox as a human being, a sensitive and cultivated man and a world-famous poet when still in his 20s. He was also a ferocious fighter on the battlefield, dubbed Mad Jack by his men and a holder of the prestigious Military Cross. Disenchanted by the wastage and slaughter he had experienced, in 1917 he wrote a denunciation of the war and was promptly shut up in an asylum in Craiglockhart, Britain, where he composed many of the poems that appear in this book. Later, he returned to the front and was shot in the head, but survived and enjoyed a prolific and diverse writing career, somewhat annoyed that he had gone down in history as a war poet. I'm looking forward to these poems. I do love poetry. Haven't read as much lately, but I figured that this book would be appropriate for my upcoming studies. And speaking of World War I poets and fighters, the next book of poems I got was Wilfred Owen's. And I did not know this when I ordered it. It has an intro from Siegfried Sassoon. So Wilfred Owen was also a war poet, also wrote about the horrors of war, particularly in the trenches and gas warfare. This is a famous painting. I just lost the name of the artist, but it is soldiers who have been gassed in World War I. And you can't see it, but right over there, there's a little, there, is a Purple Heart that was awarded to my great-grandfather, who was also gassed in World War I. Legend has it took a long time for him to get that award because, I don't know, bureaucracy. Anywho, look forward to also reading Wilfred Owen's war poems. One last thing about Wilfred. He died on the 4th of November, 1918, a week before the armistice, and I believe he was only 25 years old. Next up is a book that does not have a blurb, but the title, this is one for class, says it all. Japan's Imperial Army, Its Rise and Fall, 1853 to 1945, by Edward J. Dre. Military Review says this is an impressive and important piece of scholarship that addresses the first modern U.S. enemy to institutionalize suicide tactics as a mechanism to exhaust the will of the American people and to obtain a less severe peace. So I am looking forward to getting to this when it's time to get to this. I will not try to read this. I lie. I probably am lying. What I'm interested in, and I don't have enough knowledge on this right now, is that apparently in the First World War, Japan treated their prisoners and people they were attacking a lot more decently than they did in World War II, and I'm interested in finding out why, because Japan in World War II were horrible to enemies and prisoners of war. That's all I know about that. Next up, John Lucas's June 1941, Hitler and Stalin. As you know, Hitler invaded the USSR in 1941. Let me put my glasses on for this. This is an unparalleled drama of two great leaders confronting each other in June 1941. It describes Hitler and Stalin's strange, calculating, and miscalculating relationship before the German invasion of Soviet Russia, with its gigantic and unintended consequences. Just an aside here, the more I read about Hitler's invasion, and in my studies of Evan Maudsley's World War II: A New History, it feels like Germany really just shot itself in the foot when they invaded Russia. They lost their ground transport routes because prior to that, they had a pact with Russia, and then they lost, I think, air transport as well. So, anywho, John Lucas questions many long-held beliefs. He suggests, for example, that among other things, Hitler's first purpose involved England. If Stalin's communist Russia were to be defeated, Hitler's Third Reich would be well nigh invincible, and the British and American peoples would be forced to rethink the war against Hitler. This book offers penetrating new insights and a new portrait of Hitler and Stalin, moved by their long-lasting inclinations. Yet, among other things, he presents evidence that Hitler, rather than his generals, had moments of dark foreboding before the invasion. Stalin could not, because he wished not, believe that Hitler would choose the risk of a two-front war by attacking him. He was stunned and shocked and came close to a breakdown, but he recovered, grew into a statesman, and eventually became a prime victor of the Second World War. Such are the ironies of history. John Lucas paints them with a shining narrative skill. He's written 9 other books, and I don't have any of them. Next up, again, the Eastern Front, War of Annihilation, Combat and Genocide on the Eastern Front, 1941, by Jeffrey P. McGargy. In this, here we go again. On June 22nd, 1941, Hitler began what would be the most important campaign of the European theater. The war against the Soviet Union would leave tens of millions of Soviet citizens dead and large parts of the country in ruins. In War of Annihilation, noted military historian Jeffrey P. McGargy, I don't have any of his books either aside from this, provides a clear, concise history of the Germans' opening campaign of conquest and genocide in 1941. By drawing on the best of military and Holocaust scholarship, McGargy dispels the myths that have distorted the role of Germany's military leadership in both the military operations themselves and the unthinkable crimes that were part of them. The only problem I have with this book so far, because I haven't read it, is this typeface is so small. Like, I think I might need to get one of those magnifying bookmarks. Anyhow. Last, so all these books that are for class are relatively small. Not this one, though. This is a chunker. This is Fateful Choices, 10 Decisions That Changed the World, 1940 to 1941, Ian Kershaw. God damn, I can't speak today. In a mere 19 months, from May 1940 to December 1941, the leaders of the world's 6 major powers made a series of related decisions that decided the course and outcome of World War I, cost the lives of millions, and reshaped the course of human destiny from that point forward. How were these decisions made? What were the options facing these leaders as they saw them? What intelligence, right and wrong, did they have? What was the impact of personality? What that of larger forces? In a brilliant work with haunting contemporary relevance, let's see when this is, 2007 is when it was first published. Ian Kershaw tells the connected stories of these 10 fateful decisions from the shifting perspectives of the protagonists, and in doing so rescues them from the sense of I'm having the hardest time talking today. I'm going to have to slow down. Inevitability that now envelops them and restores them a feeling of vivid drama and contingency, the feeling that things could have turned out very differently indeed. Each chapter follows the process of arriving at one decision from the viewpoint of the leader who made it. So, Decision 1, May 1940, the British War Cabinet, driven by Churchill, agrees to fight on after the German blitzkrieg defeat of France, despite loud calls for negotiated settlement. Decision 2, Hitler decides to attack the Soviet Union, as we've seen. Decision 3, Japan decides to seize the golden opportunity and turn south, going after the colonial empires of the countries that have fallen to Hitler. Decision 4, Mussolini decides to join the war on Hitler's side and grab a share of the spoils. Decision 5, Roosevelt decides to lend a helping hand to England. Decision 6, Stalin decides he knows best and ignores all the clear signals that Germany is going to invade. Decision 7, Roosevelt decides to wage undeclared war, and I think this is related to, I'm just guessing here, shipping convoys? We'll find out. Decision 8, Japan decides to go to war against the United States. Decision 9, Hitler decides to declare war on the USA. And Decision 10, Hitler decides to kill the Jews of Europe. Decision rates to subsequent decision, though never simply or necessarily as expected. The clash of personalities, the various weaknesses of the different political systems, the challenge of intelligence, the misdiagnosis of risk and possibility all play their part. And after 19 months, though much remained to be decided, the world's fate had been profoundly altered by these 10 choices. Anywho, that is my Christmas present from my sister. And I am looking forward to school starting and a little bit nervous about it because sometimes I look at some of the syllabi, I guess, for upcoming classes and I get overwhelmed. It has been 25 years since I've been in school. And that was just one semester of graduate level school. Graduate level courses, whatever, back in 2000. Anywho, that is it for me. I hope you had a Merry Christmas if you celebrate. I hope you had a Happy New Year. And I hope that 2026 will be a good year for all of us. As always, if you've made it with me this far, thank you for sticking with me on my journey, and happy reading.